My name's Sean Hodkin. I'm a professional tennis player from Scunthorpe, and this is my journey. 2 years ago, I reached 1,000 in the world. My goal is to get back there and beyond. This week, I've travelled to Budapest to compete in a UTR Pro Tennis Tour event. Here, I'm guaranteed 5 matches before I compete in the futures the following week, and also some very decent prize money. So far, the week's gone pretty well. I've won 2 matches out of 3, and now I'm heading into the 4th and final match. If I win this match in straight sets, there's a chance that I can come first in the group and compete in the semi-final playoff at the weekend. But it wasn't going to be easy. I was taking on Stein Cooper, who had a UTR of 12.84. So my opponent started this match firing. He went a break up, hitting big serves, heavy ground strokes, taking the ball early, which was quite a contrast to the styles that I've been playing against. Previously this week, they were more grinders, hitting more drop shots. So I had to adjust my game a little bit, making sure that I was trying to get on top of the rallies wherever I could. So taking those third balls nice and early. I decided to try and look after my service games a little bit more by taking a little bit of pace off my first serve, making a higher percentage and trying to get up in the rallies more often. This was definitely a player who liked to attack my second serve. He had the firepower to do so, and he had a very strong backhand, especially when the ball got up high. So when I hit a kick serve, I was going to have to make sure that I hit it pretty well. In my opponent's service games, I really wanted to be as mentally tough as possible, just making him work so hard for every point. There had been times where he was just hitting me off the court, so whenever I got the chance to make him play, I was going to make him play as much as possible. So I played a pretty solid game, broke my opponent back, and now at 4-all, I could really feel like the momentum was starting to turn a little bit. I was able to slow the pace of the game right down, just using those heavy topspin ground strokes that are so effective on clay, and then just picking my moments to attack. It was all about playing high percentage, aggressive tennis. That's why I went for this drop shot up the line. As we got towards the end of the first set, the level from both of us just got better and better. We were both playing solid, aggressive tennis from the baseline, and then on top of that, adding in some drop shots. I think because we were both being relentless from the baseline, solid, not making many errors, sometimes we were both trying to do the same thing, which was just find a way to get the other player off the centre of the court or off the baseline. And there was a lot of patience, neither of us really going for anything that was all or nothing. The most difficult thing about this situation for me was just knowing that I was going to have to go out and win the majority of the points. I wasn't really getting any free points behind my serve, and the conditions by now were starting to become quite heavy because I don't know if you can see it, but it did actually start to rain. So the ball was getting heavier and the rallies were getting longer. Things were becoming far more physical, which I don't think was a bad thing because it really played into my strengths. Keeping it a physical battle was definitely in my favour, just as long as I could keep making the right decisions and not feel like I had to go for too much. So far in the match, this was definitely the most nervous that I'd felt, but I was just trying to work through it by focusing on some really simple patterns and again, just keeping that intention to attack with my feet and keep being positive during the rally. As I said before, the end of the first set just became relentless. Every game became a battle. We both had chances to break and take the first set, but neither of us could get across the line. We were both just locked in at deuce. As much as I was trying to focus on the tennis, I was also struggling thinking about what if I won this match in straight sets, knowing how important this first set actually was for me to be able to finish first. Obviously, that's not something I want to think about, so I was doing my best to try and put that to the back of my mind and just focus on playing the tennis that was in front of me. That can be one of the difficult things about playing these UTRs. Sometimes it comes down to sets, even games, to decide your position at the end of the group stage. And sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in the numbers and think about those things because the higher that you finish, the more cash you get. And obviously, I need the cash. We all do. But the important thing is to just focus on hitting the ball that's in front of you. And that's what I was trying to do. So I got a great start to this tie break, went up a mini break. I was really feeling the balance between a level of aggression and also really good margin. But I couldn't count my opponent out. Even at 5-3 down, good players just don't go away. And they'll still make things very difficult for you. I had a good start to this point, but couldn't quite get back for that smash and then just left the whole court open. And just like that, I'm back at 5-4 on my opponent's serve. At these stages in matches, there's just no room for error. I honestly couldn't believe that I'd missed that forehand. I'd worked the point so well. A slight lapse in concentration could have just cost me the first set. But at 5-all, it was still all to play for. I had to put those 2 points behind me and give it everything to try and bring about a set point on my serve, which was proving difficult. My opponent was just taking control of the court really well with his forehand, getting a few strikes in early and getting me on the move. So set point for my opponent. I decided to go with a 3/4 kicker for a first serve and then get him moving into the open court. He tried to neutralise to my backhand and then look for a forehand, but I was very, very surprised that he missed that mid-court forehand, especially at the moment in the match that it was. So I was given another chance at 6-all. It was time to lock in and not give anything away. There was a big relief after winning that point. So my first set point, I really wanted to take this on the first go. So just locking in the return deep down the middle and then just thinking to myself, everything goes cross court. In these tight moments, you've got to play with so much margin. So I took the first set and obviously I was feeling pretty pumped, but I was also pretty relieved at the same time that I'd given myself a chance at coming first in the group. But again, it was time to put that to the back of my mind and focus on the task at hand, which was playing the ball in front of me. After winning such a tight battle in the first set where we've both had chances, early on in the second set is a great time to try and build some momentum. People can often be down about winning the first set, thinking about chances they've had, so it's a good time to try and catch somebody off guard. But I knew my opponent was a real quality player, so the dips that he was going to have were going to be very small. I think at this stage in the match, we'd been playing for about an hour and a half, and it was getting pretty physical. I can't lie that I was starting to feel a little bit tired, but nothing I've never felt before. And I knew that my opponent was probably going to be feeling the same way. So just hiding that little bit of fatigue and staying relentless was going to be important. With the conditions being quite humid, quite damp, it was becoming so hard to hit through the court. Sometimes I was really loading up with the legs and letting go, feeling like I've hit a really heavy shot and the ball just wouldn't really go anywhere. Before this week, I also adjusted my string tension, so I've gone from 57 pounds to 56 and 54 in the crosses, which has really helped me to generate a little bit more pop and, more importantly, more spin. But anyway, back to the tennis. I went up a break early on, got broke back, and now managed to get another break. I was really determined this time not to let it go. At this stage, I feel like my opponent really started to play a lot looser. He'd looked like he relaxed. His shots were starting to come through slightly heavier, slightly deeper, just pushing me back. And I think sometimes when you have the lead, it's very hard to keep pressing. At this stage, I was having to really force myself to keep trying to move up and take the ball on. It would be very easy to sit back and just, try and play passive, let my opponent miss a little bit more. But in doing that, it actually lets him play more balls, makes him feel more comfortable. So just keeping that level of aggression is important. At 4-3, I didn't play the best game and my opponent made the most of it. He managed to get the break back. Like I said before, these good players, they never go away. They always make you play, and in the big moments, they very rarely dip below a certain level. But it was 4-all in the second set. I was still feeling good. It was still all to play for, and we were in another tight battle in my opponent's service game. I was very close to bringing about a chance to break, but my opponent just raised his level. And once again, very similar to the first set, the level towards the end of the set was just becoming very good. I knew this was a must-hold game, and I was really starting to feel the pressure. I was definitely feeling the nerves, but I was trying to work through them. I knew that if I could win this game, I'd break a little bit of momentum that my opponent had built, but obviously losing it meant losing the set. And by this point, weirdly, the focus of finishing first in the group, worrying about that had kind of gone away. And it was more just about winning the match. It wasn't really something that I was thinking about at all. I was trying to hold on the best I could, but my opponent was just playing too solid and too aggressive. His depth on the return was really starting to struggle me. He'd found his range, and then he was taking those fourth balls really early, pressuring me into the corners. And to be honest, I was really gutted to lose that second set. More just frustrated that I couldn't bring out my better tennis when I needed it. So my opponent got off to a great start in the third set. He got an early break, and he was just pretty relentless. I was just really struggling to get some momentum going. The things that were working in the first set and halfway through in the second set just didn't seem to be working at all. Maybe I'd become a little bit too predictable, or my opponent had just raised his level. But either way, I was going to have to change something fast, or I was going to lose this match very quickly. I did have some chances in the third set to turn things around a little bit, but it just wasn't enough. I just couldn't produce the level that I needed to consistently put pressure on my opponent. I still came out with some pretty decent shots, and obviously I was still fighting as much as possible, but today it just wasn't enough. So with that loss, I missed out on the opportunity to come first in my group and play in the semi-finals, and actually ended up finishing third. Normally, after matches, I'm pretty good at recovering from losses or having had chances to win the match and losing, but this one just felt a little bit different. I was really struggling to get over it. I was replaying points and chances that I had over and over again in my head. I tried to go out into Budapest, have a nice coffee, relax, be a tourist, stop thinking about tennis for a little while, but I just found it impossible. All I could think about was being up a break twice in that second set, being up in pretty much all my service games, and then somehow managing to let it slip. And I don't think the fatigue helps either. I'd played a lot of tennis this week, and I'd just finished a 3-hour match, giving it all mentally and physically. So yeah, feeling tired, but then also having the feeling of losing is not a good mix. But my week wasn't over just yet. I still had potentially 2 more matches to play. So it's day 5 of the UTR PTT Hungary. I've played 4 matches so far, and I'm going into my 5th today, which is the 3rd place playoff. If I can win these 2 matches, then it gets me about £200 extra, which I'm definitely going to fight my nuts off for. Not gonna lie, I was feeling pretty fatigued. It was the first time that I'd played on clay in 4 years. And if you haven't played on clay before, it's pretty physical. So my opponent today was Oskari Erola, a UTR 1228, so another pretty tough matchup. Starting this match, I was so determined to improve on the mistakes that I'd made yesterday. I wanted to carry on the theme of being relentless from the baseline, not giving away anything for free, being as tough as possible, just fighting for every ball. But then, in the moments when I was ahead in the scoreline, I wanted to really maintain that level of aggression, build on that mindset to be proactive and take control of the points, instead of getting in the habit of just letting my opponent give it to me or trying to be more solid than them. Because going up the levels, you get less and less rewarded for that type of game plan. So I went up a break 3-1 early on in the first set, and frustratingly managed to give that break away again. And to be honest, there was a bit of a hangover from yesterday, having had major chances being up a break in that second set, and having had chances to be up a break in this set and giving them away. I was starting to feel just really pissed off, really frustrated. And I was just fighting so hard mentally to not let that affect me, and more importantly, not show it. Even though I was 3-1 up and now it's 3-all, I'm facing break points. I just had to accept that that was the situation. That's the game of tennis. And these things can happen. Getting frustrated about the chances that I've had or thinking about them too much isn't really going to get me anywhere. Focusing on staying present, putting my focus into things like patterns, staying up the court, is what's going to lead me back to success. I managed to get a break point on my opponent's serve to go 5-3, but made a stupid decision trying to go down the line I knew that my opponent's strength was his backhand, and I maybe got a bit psyched out by that, just trying to hit into his forehand a little bit too much and then going there with not enough pace and letting him pass me pretty easily. In my opinion, as you get to the latter stages of the set, you really start to know what type of player you're dealing with or how your opponent is really feeling on the day. This is where the pressure really starts to come in and you can see people make bad decisions, getting affected by that pressure. Although I knew my opponent's strength was his backhand, I was trying to work that side as much as possible to create the space to then attack his forehand. I knew that if I just went into his forehand straight away, then I'd pretty much give him the whole court, loads of angle, but I was just struggling to do it at the right time and then just leaving myself too exposed with, too much space to cover. My opponent played a pretty solid game here and I just made some pretty awful decisions at the wrong time. And with the new balls at 5-4, it was looking like breaking my opponent was going to be very difficult. The conditions today were totally different from yesterday. The ball was lively, the clay was quite dry and quite fast, which I felt really suited the way that my opponent was hitting his backhand. It was very flat and coming through the court. So I was just trying to mix him up with some really heavy backhands and using some slice, and then just picking that right time to attack his forehand and open up the court. But again, at this stage, it was going to be a lot about patience, not making errors, just being able to apply that relentless pressure. Over the last week, the clay has definitely been great for my game. It just rewards you for being disciplined, making the right decisions, and mentally it definitely helps you to stay more resilient. I knew that whatever happened, this match was probably not going to be over quickly. Even though I wasn't feeling great, I was feeling a little bit frustrated having given away that lead and, making the same errors that I did yesterday. I was still forcing myself to fight and be as resilient as possible. I got the break back, but at 5-all, I was under pressure on my serve once again. I was just finding it really hard to get some solid momentum on my serve. It was a mixture of my opponent playing very well, but then I was sprinkling in some cheap errors on top of that as well. And things weren't looking good. I was 6-5 down, my opponent's serving, he's 30 love up. I'm not feeling great anyway, but I just said to myself, if I can make him work, put some balls in the court, apply a little bit of pressure, just see what happens. Always looking to make your opponent play that extra ball can have a huge impact.
Go now.
So I locked in and got the break back. It was all to play for in the first set tiebreak. I felt like this was going to be pivotal in deciding the winner of this match. As I said before, it's a long week, it's very physical. Getting the first set and getting the momentum is huge. Great spatial awareness there. Saved by a little bit of luck, I got the mini break back, and it threw me a lifeline in this first set breaker. My goal was to just hang with my opponent, make sure that I'm keeping my pattern super simple, hitting in the cross as much as possible, just overall playing with really good margin, and then just seeing what my opponent can produce. In the first set, some of his level has been really good. His backhand was doing a lot of damage, his forehand cross was also very effective. But I guess my question was, could he keep doing it, especially with the pressure of the breaker and the scoreline? At this stage in the breaker, the mental battle that I was having with myself early on in the first set had pretty much completely stopped. All the thinking about chances that I had yesterday and then the same things, repeating themselves and the same mistakes happening had just exhausted themselves. And at this stage, I honestly didn't have energy to think about them. And it actually just turned into enjoying the type of tennis that I was playing. The challenge was almost something that now I was looking forward to. Weirdly, I was actually starting to think it's not such a bad thing if I lose the first set. And I think that thought helped me to relax and actually play better.
Out. Nate, by 4. Out. Out. Out.
So obviously I was pretty pumped about winning the first set, obviously very happy about that, but I was more happy with the fact that I was able to get over the mental hurdles that I had and actually play some pretty good tennis. And it felt like I'd overcome whatever I was going through from yesterday, thinking about those chances that I had to win the match and, potentially come first in the group. It had all just disappeared. And now I was fully focused on the tennis. I was enjoying it. I was loving being solid, hitting the ball, being mentally resilient. And I guess most of all, I was really starting to trust what I was doing. It seems like in the last few weeks of training, I was working on all of my patterns, working hard physically, thinking about how I'm going to approach things mentally. And then I had those 4 matches in the group stage to try and build a really solid foundation for myself and my game. But now I was really starting to believe in it. And for me, that's the most powerful thing. Once you have that real belief, that's when you can start to win matches when you're not playing so well, when you're not feeling great, when your opponent's playing well, when the conditions are difficult. And for me, that's what I've been looking for in the past 6 months. And I feel like I've somewhat found it. So I said to myself at the start of this second set that I was just going to be relentless. Not giving anything away for free, barely any unforced errors. And the mindset that I had was my opponent was going to have to play very, very well to beat me now. And this was because I know that he was a very good player and I know that if I gave him the chance to get back into the match, then he would. Even though I was a breakup, he was still coming out with shots like that, making things extremely difficult. But I felt like the momentum was on my side and I was just managing to sneak through those tight first games in the second set. For me, it's actually crazy how much I've improved on clay over the past week. At the start of the week, I was really struggling with these sorts of points, but now I was actually really starting to enjoy them. The movement forward for me was just so difficult because I haven't really played on clay that much. It's just so different to playing on a hard court. But for me, once you get used to playing on clay, it's actually so much better for your game. It's definitely better for your footwork and your fitness. You've got to really work hard to get in the right position. There's a lot of moving forwards and moving back. And like I've said before, you've got to be so disciplined with building the rallies. In this second set, I think I just did a good job of running away with it a little bit, just making use of that momentum, not getting carried away with the scoreline, trying to change anything, just being disciplined and sticking to what I'm doing. And yeah, managed to finish the match off with an ace, which is always a nice way to finish. Full credit to my opponent. The match was far tougher than the scoreline suggested, especially in the second set. I was having to work hard for pretty much every point that was played. But yeah, I was happy to get another win under my belt. And tomorrow I'll play in the 3rd place playoff for another £100, but more importantly, another win. Coming up next time, I'm back for more action in Hungary, playing my first futures on the channel in a very long time. I'll see you there.